Here's the thing. I bet you've been in this situation. Your manager walks in Monday morning and announces, "We're going Agile now." Everyone nods enthusiastically. You buy the fancy Kanban board, schedule daily stand-ups, and start writing everything on sticky notes. 3 months later, nothing's actually changed. You're still missing deadlines, stakeholders are still frustrated, and now you're just doing the same chaotic work, but standing up. Look, I've seen this happen at least a dozen times in my career. And, it's not because Agile doesn't work. It's because most teams are doing cargo cult Agile. They're copying the practices without understanding the principles. My name is Sam, and I spend way too much time thinking about why Agile transformations fail and how AI is about to completely change the game for project management. If you're someone who's tired of doing Agile without actually being Agile, or you're drowning in ceremonies that feel like theater instead of actual work, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now, you might be thinking, Sam, I know what Agile is. We use Jira. We do sprints. We have retrospectives. But here's what most people don't realize. Most of what gets sold as Agile completely misses the point. Many things get called Agile, especially by people selling something. If you ask the makers of paper products, they'll tell you that to be Agile, you need to write user stories on sticky note cards that they just happen to sell. If you ask a consultant, you'll likely hear that Agile is a methodology your organization can learn, if you buy their services, of course. And if you talk to the makers of orthopedic shoes, they'll tell you the key to being Agile is meetings where everyone stands up. So the more comfortable your shoes, the more Agile your team. Yeah, that's not how this works. So what is Agile actually? The actual definition is found in the Agile Manifesto, and this is where it gets really interesting. The manifesto makes it crystal clear that Agile isn't a methodology. It isn't a specific way of doing software development. It isn't a framework or a process. In fact, most of the things marketed as Agile tend to miss the point entirely. Agile is a set of values and principles. That's it. It's 68 words. Let me say that again. The entire foundation of a movement that's transformed how millions of people work globally is just 68 words long. Here's what those 68 words say. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. Now look, this is crucial. Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say processes and tools are bad. It doesn't say you shouldn't have documentation. It's not saying contracts are evil or planning is worthless. What it's saying is this. When you're making a decision, any decision about how to work, and you have to choose between these options, lean toward the left side. Here's the psychological force at work that most teams miss. Humans are pattern-matching machines. We see another team doing stand-ups and shipping great software, and our brain goes, aha, stand-ups equal great software. But that's like saying, professional athletes drink water, so if I drink water, I'll be a professional athlete. The stand-up isn't what made them agile. The stand-up is the result of them following agile principles and making a decision that worked for their specific context. Supporting these 4 values are 12 principles. I'm not going to read all of them word for word. You can pause the video if you want to read them. But I want to highlight a few that are especially misunderstood in the age of AI and modern project management. Let me give you a real example of how this works. Consider a new project where the team is discussing how to get requirements from the business owner. The suggested approach is to require that the business owner write down all requirements and sign off on them before beginning any work. Now, here's what most people don't realize. This sounds reasonable. It feels safe. You've got everything documented, Everyone's signed off. You're covered if something goes wrong. But a team following Agile would stop and ask, while that might work, isn't that inconsistent with our belief that we should value customer collaboration over contract negotiation? And doesn't it violate our principle that says developers should be working with business owners every day? See the difference? They're not saying the documentation approach is wrong. They're asking whether it aligns with their values. Here's another one. Consider a developer working on implementing a feature for the business owner. The developer realizes they need a database to make the feature work. The first idea that comes to mind? Stop work on the feature and build out a robust database layer that'll handle not just this feature, but provide support for everything else they might need later. This is where it gets really interesting from a psychology perspective. Our brains are wired to reduce future uncertainty. Building that robust layer feels smart. It feels professional. You're doing it right. But if the developer believes in Agile values and is following Agile principles, they'd think, but building out this layer means I'll have to delay delivering what the customer can see as valuable software they can use. If I can find a way to build just what's necessary to deliver this feature, it'll better align with my principles. Now, you might be thinking, but Sam, isn't that creating technical debt? And look, that's a fair objection. But here's the thing. Maybe you build that simple database implementation, ship the feature, get customer feedback, and discover they actually need something completely different. The robust solution you almost built? It would have been wasted effort. Here's what most people don't realize about being Agile. When you have a team that is following Agile, they're making hundreds of decisions each week this way. That's what it means to be Agile, making each decision based on the principles and values the team has decided to follow. The decision-making process matters. You can't try to shortcut things by taking decisions made by another team and just blindly doing what they decided to do. Simply trying to mimic another team's actions and practices won't make your team agile. There's a perfect historical example of this mindset. After World War II, Melanesian islanders were observed trying to bring cargo planes and their supplies from the sky by mimicking practices they'd seen performed during the war. This included clearing forest to make landing strips complete with full-size planes made out of straw. They created structures that mimicked control towers out of bamboo and had someone sit in it wearing headphones fashioned from coconuts. Obviously this didn't work. They had all the visible practices, but none of the underlying principles or infrastructure. It's easy to fall into a similar cargo cult mentality when it comes to Agile. The things that are easy to notice in a highly functional Agile team are the practices they're using. But the practices a team uses are the result of following Agile principles and values. It's less important what practices a team happens to be using than why they're using them. Here's what I want you to understand. As time goes by, a good Agile team is probably going to change and refine the practices they use. A team might start with Scrum and later find that Kanban is a better fit for delivering value to their customers. A team might begin standing up in a daily meeting and later decide it works better for everyone to stay sitting down. Another team might start out using planning poker to estimate story size and later do away with story points and simply split stories to be approximately the same size. And here's where AI comes into the picture. This is transforming everything. Teams using AI-powered project management tools are making these adjustments in real time, not months later. They're getting immediate feedback on what's working and what isn't. That isn't to say it's useless to look at practices being used by teams that are performing well, but you can't go looking for practices to make you agile. Your principles and values are what will make you agile. You have to look for practices that support your principles and values. Now look, here's where this gets really interesting for 2026 and beyond. AI is fundamentally changing how we apply Agile principles. Traditional Agile relied on human intuition and retrospectives to figure out what's working. That meant teams might go weeks or months before realizing a practice wasn't serving them. AI-driven project management tools can now analyze your team's patterns in real time. They can spot when ceremonies are becoming wasteful theater instead of valuable collaboration. They can identify bottlenecks before they become critical. They can even suggest practice adjustments based on your team's specific context and the principles you're trying to follow. But, and this is crucial, the AI tools are only valuable if you understand the principles. If you don't know why you're doing something, the AI can't help you do it better. Garbage principles in, garbage recommendations out. Alright, so what do you actually do with this information? Here are the clear, actionable steps you can apply immediately. Step 1. Get your team together and read the Agile Manifesto. All 68 words. Discuss what each value means in your specific context. Don't move forward until everyone genuinely understands the principles, not just the words. Step 2. For the next 2 weeks, before any team decision, and I mean any decision, from tool selection to meeting frequency, ask, how does this align with our Agile values? Write down your reasoning. Step 3. Identify one practice your team currently does. Now ask why you're doing it. If the answer is, because that's what Agile teams do, or because the other team does it, that's a red flag. Find a better reason or consider dropping it. Step 4. If you're using AI tools, audit them against your principles. Ask, is this tool helping us deliver value faster, or is it just creating more process? If it's the latter, adjust or eliminate. Step 5. Schedule a monthly principles check-in. Not a retrospective on what went wrong, a forward-looking conversation on whether your practices still serve your principles. Here's the psychological trick that makes this work. You're reframing every decision as a values-based choice, not a rules-based compliance exercise. This keeps teams engaged with the why instead of just going through motions. Here's what most people don't realize about measuring Agile success. The metrics everyone focuses on, velocity, sprint completion, story points, these are all lagging indicators of practices, not values. The real measure of whether you're being Agile isn't whether you're doing stand-ups or using Jira or estimating with planning poker. The real measure is, are you delivering value to customers faster than you were before? Are you responding to change better? Are your team members more engaged and empowered? I've seen teams with perfect Scrum ceremonies delivering mediocre results. And I've seen teams with messy, chaotic-looking processes delivering incredible value because every decision they made was rooted in Agile principles. The way you select your practices is what determines whether you're being Agile or not. If a practice is being selected because it looks like a good way to follow Agile principles, it's probably a good place to start. The same practice can work poorly for a team if it's selected for the wrong reason. Before we wrap up, let me give you the 3 most common pitfalls I see teams fall into. Pitfall number 1. Agile Theater. You're going through all the motions, the ceremonies, the artifacts, the terminology, but nothing's actually changing. You're having stand-ups where nobody listens. You're writing user stories that sit in a backlog forever. You're doing retrospectives where the same problems get raised every time with no action. That's not Agile, that's just expensive theater. Pitfall number 2. Dogmatic Agile. The opposite problem. Someone reads the Scrum guide and treats it like sacred text. We can't do that because it's not in the framework. Look, the frameworks are tools, not religions. If something isn't serving your principles, change it. Pitfall number 3. Ignoring context. Copying what worked for Spotify or Amazon or your competitor without understanding why it worked for them in their specific context. Your regulated enterprise with 20-year-old legacy systems is not the same as a Silicon Valley startup. The principles apply everywhere, but the practices must fit your reality. Now, you might be thinking, Sam, this sounds hard. Can't I just follow a framework? And look, frameworks like Scrum or Kanban can be great starting points, but they're training wheels, not the destination. The goal is to internalize the principles so deeply that you're making good decisions instinctively. So let's bring this all together. What is Agile? Agile is a set of values and principles, not a methodology, not a framework, not a tool. Values and principles that guide decision-making. How does a team become Agile? They make their decisions based on Agile values and principles. The decision-making process is how a team becomes agile. The values and principles have enough flexibility to allow teams in a wide variety of organizations to develop software in ways that work best for their particular situation, while providing enough direction to help a team continually move toward their full potential. And here's where AI comes in. It's not replacing Agile, it's amplifying your ability to follow Agile principles. AI can help you spot misalignments faster, suggest context-appropriate practices, and measure what actually matters. But only if you understand the principles first. Look, if this changed how you think about Agile, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more project managers and team leads discover this content.
Hey everyone! Please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching!